Okay, gotta find some words to start this off. Hello everybody, I am Skully the Metalhead, and today, while I was working on the Summer of Sonic 2017 marathon, I was like, you know what? I want to go see Assassin's Creed the movie right now. So then I did do that. I went off to the cinema, I sat down, had a little bit of Pepsi and popcorn, I watched the movie, and to generally some of my thoughts, I guess, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I don't really know what the critical response for the rest of the movie was, or at least in terms of, like, well, pretty much everybody else. But, I'll probably find that out a little bit later, but as for my general, untainted opinions, I enjoyed it. Thought it was at least a pretty entertaining movie. I mean, it was decently paced. Excuse me. It was at least decently paced. And, this video is pretty much just the general, let's talk about the movie, because you need to sit down, shut up, and hear me talk about this fucking movie, because, I don't know, everybody does this, so I figured I might as well talk about it, because I reviewed Assassin's Creed a while ago, and I plan to do a commentary on it, and the day is slowly dimming, just like in that review, so it's kind of fitting, I think, ish. But, yeah, the reason, honestly, why I did go to see it is, well, one, because honestly, before the movie came out, I wasn't watching any trailers. I had only heard, like, brief bits of information that, yes, this movie is coming out, it's coming out this time. But aside from that, I didn't pay attention to any pre-release trailers, because I honestly just decided to see it on a whim. Although part of that was inspired by the fact that in 2016, I didn't see a lot of movies. In fact, out of that entire year, I only saw 2 movies. One of which was Deadpool, which was released, like, way back in January. And, very late December, I went off and saw Rogue One on opening day. So yeah, 2017, I plan to see a lot more movies. There's actually quite a few good good in quotation marks, movies coming out. Or at least the ones that capture my interest, like, obviously Star Wars Episode 8 is coming out this year. There's also Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage, which, dumb action movie, but fuck it, I want to see it. And of course, just to end the series, I guess, Resident Evil, the final chapter, which I think is bullshit coming from somebody who's a big Friday the 13th fan. But I'm getting ahead of myself, because right now we have to talk about Assassin's Creed. So, the way this video is going to be structured, it's basically going to be positives, which I'll just talk about what I enjoyed, negatives, which is, well, the shit I didn't like, which I'll get into that a little bit later, and the third thing, which is just, nice little touches or stuff that I think, I don't know, could have been done better or whatever. And lastly will probably be my general thoughts and opinions or whatever. So, first positive. To start off with, I'd say that the movie does generally capture the atmosphere of the games. Like, I mean, if there's something that can be said about a lot of video game movies, particularly that by the breed of, like, Uwe Boll, or anything like that, a lot of video game movies usually tend to lose focus of what the games are about and typically tend to emulate, other different pieces of stuff that's going on around the time. With my 2 biggest examples of that being the Far Cry movie and Doom the movie. But anyway, Assassin's Creed I am actually pretty thankful for because it does replicate the game's atmosphere, not exactly to such an extreme degree, since a lot of its story is completely original, much like the 2002 Resident Evil movie. However, at the same time, it still carries the spirit of what the Assassin's Creed franchise was, much like the Silent Hill movie. So, in that respect, I can praise the movie for, appealing to the general feel of Assassin's Creed, which is something that I feel not many video games tend to achieve, much less perfectly emulate, I should say. My second point of praise is actually the cinematography, which again, it goes a little bit more hand in hand with the atmosphere of the movie, but yeah, the cinematography does reflect a lot of the stuff you'd see in an Assassin's Creed game. Like, I mean, you have the wide panning shots from the, little viewpoints that you'd see if you climb up the towers in Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. You'd have the, the combat scenes are generally pretty tense, which, again, the choreography as well, if I could just go on a little tangent about that, the choreography was fucking killer, man. Like, there was, again, I kind of blame the Star Wars prequels for doing this to me, but again, good fight choreography really gets you fucking pumped, and so yeah, fuck yeah for the fight choreography. Man, this is just unfocused, and I do apologize if I'm stumbling right now, but my thoughts and just general mindset is a little bit wacky without a script, so yeah, I apologise for any stop-start jump edits that tend to pop in every now and again. Now my third point of praise, it wasn't my fourth, I can't really remember. But yeah, another point of praise is the set design, which, honestly, I think was actually pretty damn authentic. Like, I mean, it was set between two different eras. There was the present day, or 2016, which was like the American release date, I believe the movie was set, and I believe it was 1492 in Spain. Yeah, both sets, you know, for Spain and in present day, I think actually were pretty damn well handled. Like, I mean, I loved the Abstergo laboratories, how it seemed to have a bit of a mixture between the industrial, you know, metallic scientific look and like a bit of I'd say like a bit of an aged stone look to it. I don't know, there's not really any way I can really put it, but a lot of the design for the Abstergo sequences in the movie, I can give a lot of praise to that because, again, it just looked cool, if I can give a general opinion on it. However, as for the stuff in Spain, you know, and the general set design for that I think was pretty authentic. Granted, I haven't really researched a lot of Spanish architecture of that era, so I don't think I can really speak for that kind of thing, but I think the movie did generally make me, you know, feel like that, yes, these people were in Spain in this time period, and I just think that it generally captured it pretty damn well. And my fourth or fifth point of praise, okay, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna stop numbering these. My next point of praise is, honestly, how the movie integrated the future and past plots a lot better than I think even the games did. And I say games, but I mean up until from Assassin's Creed 1 to 3, because I didn't care about Black Flag, and I don't think I even have the consoles to play Syndicate or whatever the fuck's current of Assassin's Creed right now, because I lost interest after the Desmond storyline fucked up. But yeah, I think generally the way the plot just integrated the past and future so seamlessly, I can at least commend it for doing that, because again, in Assassin's Creed 1, like, the past segments and the future segments, though I think they do tie in a lot better than a lot of people would give the first game credit for, it was still very, very segregated. Like, okay, here's one gameplay style, here's another, and that was generally how it worked for 2 Brotherhood and Revelations, although I think Brotherhood and Revelations did give a little bit more freedom in that respect. That being said, I really did like how it integrated both segments together pretty damn well. Third point of praise. Fucking, what am I talking about? As for anything else positive I can really talk about the movie, that's generally about it. And again, I'm not really going to dive into the whole plot thing because that's something I'll get into a little bit later, as you know, part of the as part of the negative connotations. So yeah, there's the negatives. My one negative thing, and again, this is probably going to be common for a lot of people, I'd imagine, is really how it does, and again, I brought up the live-action Resident Evil movie last time, but yeah, this movie has a plot that's completely separate from the main game, so no, you won't be seeing Altair, you won't be seeing Malik or Al-Mualim, you won't be seeing Desmond, Lucy, or Warren, or any of the characters from the other games, although there are hidden references, which leads me to believe that maybe they are in there, you know, kind of like how Resident Evil Apocalypse brought in Jill Valentine and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it's pretty severed, which I guess in many ways could also act as a positive in that, you know, you could take somebody to the cinema who's never played the Assassin's Creed games before, and both of you could generally have an enjoyable time with this movie, which I guess could be a pretty decent touch, but overall, again, I'm not really too nonplussed about it, not following the, you know, general plot of the movie, because again, I've seen that time and time again with Doom, the Silent Hill, and, you know, the Resident Evil movies, as I brought up before, so I'm not generally plussed about that, but honestly, I think, or at least in terms of introducing people to the general storyline, I think I would have at least preferred, you know, it adapting Altair's setting, because the Holy Land in Assassin's Creed 1, as I brought up in the review, was just so atmospheric, and it really did capture the whole dark feel that, you know, Assassin's Creed 1 was known for, which, in a general sense, I guess the movie does too, but I don't know, I think the Holy Land did kind of reflect that a little bit better than Spain did. Okay, nitpick, or negative number 2, is that, and again, this is so weird since I usually criticize Assassin's Creed games for not really developing the future storyline, but in regards to the past storyline, I really don't think we got to develop the characters a lot. Like, again, I know this is so out there, but I can barely remember the lead guy's name, let alone the lady he was with, and also his mentor, which died around about the midway point of the movie, during the second Animus sequence, which, again, I would have appreciated a little bit more development, if only to make these characters feel a little bit more fleshed out, akin to the same way that Ezio or okay, not necessarily to the same degree that Ezio and Altair were, but at least enough so that you could go, okay, I care about this character, it's such a shame that he had to sacrifice himself to do that, which again is something that they tried to build up in the movie, but I don't think they really got across because we didn't get any breathing room to know these characters, because a lot of the development time in this movie was usually tended to Cal, and a lot of the Abstergo stuff with Alan Riken and all that, so in a general sense we didn't really get a lot about the past, so again it's really kind of an inverse criticism, but I don't know, it's something that I feel they probably could have worked on, or at least, I don't know, maybe if there's an extended cut that comes out which does do a little bit more fleshing out, I'd like to see some scenes of that, but I just would have appreciated a little bit more development for our main assassin guy in the past. I'm so sorry that I cannot remember his name, I think it was like Alangulon, I can't fucking remember his name for the life of me, but yeah, a little bit more development on that end. The third negative point, and again, this isn't really the fault of the movie, but it's more so something that I actually read on the wiki page, like before the movie was released. It's that they were planning sequels up the arse for this movie, which granted is a pretty big telltale sign that yes they were, because again, Assassin's Creed is Ubisoft's cash cow, so to speak. And yeah, it was probably inevitable, but nonetheless, at least by the end of the movie, you get the feeling that yes, they're planning like a series of movies, which I guess don't really tie into anything. Well, they do tie into something, but I don't know. Sequel baiting is just something that annoys me, and again, there's likely going to be a follow-up storyline, but I don't think this movie really needed that, so to speak. Like, I mean, the thing about most Assassin's Creed stories is that, yes, they did have a continuing storyline with the Desmond stuff, which they then canned, you know, with Assassin's Creed 3 after they killed him off, and then flimsily brought back with, like, having his bastard child and, like, Anonymous or something. I don't know, I don't really follow the fucking games after 3, but I don't know. I think just in a general sense, it was fine enough how it ended, but I guess the sequel baiting just left me a bit on a dour note. And now to the nice little touches in the movie, which you know, again, I guess it could also harken back to the positives, but at the same time, it's something that I just found, or basically just shit that I found really fucking cool in the movie, and one of the things that I actually really fucking loved was the design of the Animus in this movie. Whereas in previous games it was either like a bed or a chair or whatever, yeah, in this movie it's like a very cyberpunk-looking, Matrix-inspired head jack kind of thing, where like they have the epidermal needles coming into his neck, and then like it's basically suspended in the air, and a lot of his movements are emulating his ancestors, which, you know, visually, and again this goes back to the cinematography, but the way in which it's all shot, and the way it just cross-cuts between, you know, past, present with, you know, Cal fighting the Templars. Again, I really liked how that was cut together. It really did a lot to seamlessly transition between, you know, past and present so seamlessly. Which, again, is something I think could only ever have been done in a movie, because in the games that probably would have been fucking weird as shit. But, again, nonetheless, nice little touch. Love the design of the Animus, and I just love the way the scenes were shot in a way that blends it together. The second nice little touch, and again I already touched upon this before with the set design, is that I really did like the way a lot of the, you know, props were designed as well, which, like the Apple of Eden, or the Piece of Eden as I prefer to call it, yeah, like, I mean, again, it's one of those little things, but you're like, when you see things you know from the game translated into live action, there's a certain giddiness you feel about it, and, you know, seeing things like the Hidden Blade or the Piece of Eden right there in live action was still pretty cool, in my opinion. Granted, we don't get to see the Piece of Eden actually do anything akin to what it did in the games, but generally, again, there was a lot of really nice design, and I believe, if I remember the wiki page correctly, there was actually a few props taken from a lot of the previous ancestors. Like, I definitely remember seeing Altair's sword, like, being used in one of the final battles before they escaped the Abstergo complex. Like, I mean, I believe Connor Kenway's, like, one of his bow and arrows was also in there as well as some flintlock pistols, which I believe were from Black Flag. So yeah, there were quite a few homages, which again, I'm not sure whether or not they're setting this in the game's universe or not. I'm gonna say they're not, because, you know, a lot of video game movies generally didn't do that before. But if they are, again, decent little callback without having to go, you know, full on nostalgia. Well, I remember this from this game. Even though these games don't exist in the movie's timeline, but that's just a can of worms that I don't want to open. I suppose the last thing I could also bring up was the way the bleeding effect was handled in this, which I'd say was actually pretty damn well handled. I mean, granted, I would have, and again, this is just me talking, but I would have handled it in a more psychological horror way, but the way they handled the bleeding effect, how it seemed, and again, it was much like the Animus segments in the sense that they kind of seamlessly transitioned from, you know, reality to, you know, the dream, so to speak. Because there was a scene in the movie where Cal was busy training against his ancestor, and then moments later you have a bunch of Abstergo guards bursting into the room, noticing the suspicious activity, and then he starts kicking their asses based on the moves in which his ancestor was teaching him, so to speak. Which again, it was a pretty interesting way to use the bleeding effect, and honestly, it made for a pretty entertaining visual. Well, then hearing Michael Fassbender sing Crazy by Patsy Cline, which was pretty fucking funny. But yeah, those are some nice little touches to the movie. As for my final thoughts, generally speaking anyway, I liked Assassin's Creed. There are a few niggles here and there that I didn't particularly enjoy, but again, those are just minor nitpicks and stuff that isn't really, you know, worth, you know, pissing in somebody's Cheerios over, so generally, I liked Assassin's Creed as a movie, standalone only though, because again, in terms of adapting the game story, it falls the mark. But then again, and again, much like the 2002 Resident Evil movie, I don't think it was really trying. Of course, as later Resident Evil movies would later prove that was complete bullshit, but we'll get to that later this year. So anyway, on that note, I'm Skully, keep it new metal, and it's pretty good. I'd say go see Assassin's Creed if you're looking for a decent-ish video game adaptation of a thingy. I mean, movie adaptation. Fucking idiot. Anyway, catch you later. Hello everybody, I am Skully the... Fucking Solid Snake, what the fuck do you want, you son of a bitch?